Today I'm tackling one of the biggest obstacles that holds people back from having a much healthier diet with more control over their health, their weight, and their performance. What I'm talking about is this idea that in order to have a healthier diet, you have to permanently abstain and give up your favorite foods or certain foods like pizza, cheeseburgers, sugar, carbs, junk food, whatever. Now, of course, in some cases, that is going to have to be necessary. If you have a true peanut allergy or true celiac where gluten causes a lot of problems for you, then yeah, those types of foods that give you a severe allergic reaction are things you're probably going to have to abstain from. But outside of those examples, this idea that you can never eat cheeseburgers again or tacos or candy bars and stuff is usually much more of just flat out myth, and ironically enough, is probably not in your best interest. See, so much of our diet culture is based on this idea that if you eat certain foods, you're going to get a certain result. This is the methodological approach that I talk about, which most diet and exercise habits are based off of. And while there's a very heavy correlation with some habits and some outcomes, this isn't actually how fitness works. See, when we abstain from certain foods, and we get leaner, we get healthier, we feel better and stuff, it's not because we stopped eating that food. It's because that food or type of food, for whatever reason, had a very big influence on the physiological processes of diet and nutrition, namely consumption versus utilization or caloric intake versus caloric expenditure and so on. So when you got rid of those foods, you got rid of their big influence and therefore you had the impact. But it's the influence those foods have on that process, not the actual foods themselves. So what this means is you can still have those foods in your diet, you just make sure that their influence remains relatively small. If you're eating cheeseburgers and pizza 5 nights a week, that's a big influence. But if you're doing it once or twice a month as a special Saturday night treat, it's going to be a much smaller influence and therefore probably have a negligible impact on your weight, your health, and your performance. But again, that's not how this stuff actually works. Because yes, sugar is an influence to your caloric intake and your health. Junk food can be certainly an influence, but it is by no means fully in control of your weight. You can't fully control everything about what is controlling your health and your weight just by not eating certain foods. But it gives you a false sense of control to think that way. So ironically, believing that I have full control over my weight and my health and my performance as long as I just don't eat these certain foods actually leaves you with less control than you otherwise would have if you learn how to eat those foods with a dose of control and a sense of normalcy. And that gives you more control because you're also having your attention over, well, I'm also paying attention to how much I'm eating and my energy level and my physical activity and all of the other variables that are also incredibly important to those objectives. Nonetheless, I understand how that can be scary because it certainly was for me for a while. So here's how you can kind of bring some of these foods back into the diet without totally losing yourself at it. For example, if you wanted to bring pizza back into your diet to some degree because you really like pizza, but you're worried that if you just order out, you're just going to completely lose yourself, well, you don't order 2 large pepperoni pizzas and have pizza in the house for the next week and a half. You go out to the local pizza shop and you order a slice along with a salad, or 2 slices along with a salad. That gives you a definitive stopping point on the portion control, so that way the influence can remain relatively small and not leave you feeling like you've got to totally control yourself with absolute willpower, but the portion sizes you've brought into your house or on your plate are more of an influence to help you maintain your control and sanity. Because believe me, it's a hell of a lot easier to maintain your weight and your health and your performance when you don't rely entirely on abstinence from certain foods in order to do it. More stuff here on healthy eating. Let me know if you have questions below. Be fit and live free.